Good evening, students. Today we'll see the very important topic, properties of cardiac muscle. See, we have three muscles, skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. Skeletal muscles and cardiac muscle are striated muscle, and the cardiac muscle is involuntary. It is not under our control. And we have another muscle that is a smooth muscle, which is also involuntary. And the skeletal muscles are attached to the skeleton, and it is supplied by the somatic nerves, and it is under our control. The cardiac muscle is supplied by the autonomic nerves, sympathetic and parasympathetic, and the smooth muscle also supplied by the autonomic nerves, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Now, coming to the properties of cardiac muscle, you can group the properties as electrical and mechanical property. So usually we have an electrical impulse that is going to make the muscle contract. So based on that, we divide the properties into electrical and mechanical properties. Under electrical properties, we have automaticity, conductivity, excitability. Under mechanical properties, we have contractility and Frank-Stalling mechanism. First, we'll see the electrical properties. Electrical properties. Automaticity. What is automaticity? That is the ability of the pacemaker SA node to generate an impulse on its own at regular intervals. And this impulse acts as a stimuli actually for the other areas of the heart to contract. So it is like a power, it is like a switch for a motor. And the impulse recorded here is the pacemaker potential. The second property is the conductivity. What is conductivity? That is the ability of the conducting fibers. The conducting fibers are nothing but they are also the cardiac muscle fibers, but they are modified. They have few contractile proteins. That is why they are modified, and their purpose is only to conduct the impulse from the SA node. And this was explained by the conducting system of the heart, done by the conducting system of the heart. The third is the excitability. What is excitability? The ability of the cardiac contracting muscle fibers. These are the muscle fibers present in the atrium and the ventricle. And the ability of the muscle fibers, they are the working muscle fibers to respond to the impulse. That is the impulse which is generated and conducted, and this impulse, this contractile muscle fibers, they show a response that is called the cardiac muscle potential or the cardiac muscle action potential. And here there is a period called refractive period. That is a period of the cardiac muscle potential where the muscle fiber will not respond to a second stimuli. So if one stimuli will operate at one time, if a second stimuli is applied, the muscle fiber will not respond to that stimuli. And this is a very important unique property. The refractive period is very long in cardiac muscle fiber, and this ability is very important so that the cardiac muscle will not be tetanized. So cardiac muscle cannot be tetanized. Now coming to the automaticity, I told you that is a pacemaker potential, which is the potential which is recorded in the pacemaker, and this is like the trigger, and it it generate the impulse, and that impulse will be conducted to the other parts of the heart and make the other parts of the heart to get excited and contract. The pacemaker potential shows the slope potential. This is a curve of a pacemaker potential. Here you have a slope potential which is called the pre-potential. The resting membrane potential of the SA node is minus 60 millivolt, and the first phase one is there is an opening of funny sodium channel, or there are leaky sodium channels in the initial part, So the leaky sodium channels gets opened, and there is also closure of the potassium channels. So usually potassium channel close at this point, and there is an opening of the funny sodium channels, and this initial half of the slow potential, and there is also opening of a transient calcium channel in the second part. So opening of sodium channel and calcium channel causes sodium influx and calcium influx, raising the resting membrane potential to minus 40 millivolt. Now at this threshold, we have the depolarization, the upstroke, which is due to the opening of the long-lasting calcium channel, L-type calcium channels. And once it reaches a peak of 0 millivolt, there is a closure of the channels and opening of potassium channels that causes the phase 4. The opening of potassium causes potassium efflux and hyperpolarizing. Now, at the end of this phase 4, there is a closure of the potassium channel and again opening of the funny sodium channel. This happens automatically, and that is the property called automaticity. So this is the pacemaker potential, which is occurring automatically, and this impulse act as a stimulus, and this impulse will be conducted through the conducting fibers, and it will be transmitted to the other areas of the heart. So the pacemaker potential actually can be taken as a stimuli for the cardiac muscle to contract. Now that stimuli which is generated in the SA node as pacemaker potential is conducted through the conducting pathway. First, the impulse will be conducted from sinoatrial node to the atrium muscle, then to the internodal pathways, then to the AV node, then to the bundle of his, then to the right bundle and left bundle, then to the Purkinje fibers. So the impulse conduction is faster in the Purkinje fibers. And now this impulse will be conducted to the other parts of the heart, and this acts as a stimuli and make the other parts of the heart to contract. Now, what is excitability? That is the ability of the muscle to respond to that stimuli. So this is recorded as cardiac muscle action potential in the atrial muscle and in the ventricular muscle. The cardiac muscle potential, unlike pacemaker potential, the resting membrane potential is minus 90 here, and we have a rapid depolarization due to opening of the sodium channels. The potential crosses 0 millivolt. Then there is a closure of the sodium channels, opening of little potassium channels. Potassium efflux takes place, and also there is a opening of calcium channel, L-type calcium channel. It causes calcium influx. So this efflux is balanced by the influx of calcium channel. That makes the curve plateau or flat. This plateau phase is unique for the cardiac muscle potential. Then there is the opening of the potassium channel. Many potassium channel opens, causing more potassium efflux, causing repolarization towards the resting membrane potential. And the resting membrane potential is maintained by the sodium potassium pump. That is phase 4. So we have rapid depolarization, little repolarization, plateau potential, then the repolarization part. So this is regarding the cardiac action potential, and this potential is recorded in the atrial muscle and in the ventricular muscle. Whereas the pacemaker potential is recorded in the AV node and in the SA node and in the AV node also. Final property, the mechanical property, is the contractility, which is a length independent property. Okay, so at a given length, the muscle is able to contract. So it depends on the calcium availability in the muscle fiber, the condition of the muscle fiber. If the muscle fiber is damaged, then it will not able to contract properly. Then the sympathetic stimulation increases the contraction of the muscle fiber by acting on the beta 1 receptors, by releasing the neurotransmitters, noradrenaline, and that increases the cardiac contraction. Then the catecholamines, so both are linked. Okay, so there is a release of catecholamine, noradrenaline, and adrenaline that causes the contraction, increases the contraction. Then drugs. So the drugs which increases the contraction, they are called inotropic drugs. Inotropic drugs. Now we have another mechanism in the mechanical property called Frank-Stalling mechanism, which is a length-dependent property. So what is that length-dependent property? That is, within physiological limits, the force of contraction of the cardiac muscle fiber depends on the initial length of the muscle fiber. Here, what decides the initial length of the muscle fiber? It is the end diastolic volume. That is the volume of blood remaining in the ventricles at the end of the diastole. It is nothing but the preload. So it is very useful in exercise and pregnancy. So what happens in exercise and pregnancy? There is more venous return, more blood will be returning to the heart. It causes stretching of the muscle fibers. It acts as a preload, stretches the muscle fibers, and it increases the initial length of the muscle fibers, and that will increase the force of contraction. So here, the force of contraction depends on the initial length of the muscle fiber. So more the muscle fiber is stretched, more will be the contraction. But it is not useful in heart failure. In heart failure, the mechanism fails because here the problem is with the heart muscle fiber itself, the cardiac muscle fiber itself. So it does not depend on the preload or the venous return. It cannot respond. So here, which is helpful is the contractility property of the muscle fiber itself, the intrinsic property of the muscle fiber.